Xbox sur Warcraft confirme. Non, c'est pas vrai. Je connais pas ça, c'est pas vrai. J'aurais aimé ça que hier, quand ils ont fait des annonces, tu sais, quand que Phil Spencer est monté sur la scène, s'il aurait juste dit avant de partir, oh, by the way, les jeux sont dans le Game Pass maintenant. Ça aurait été fucking cool, mais il manque un petit peu, un petit punch au Blizzcon, je trouve. Il n'y a pas assez de pitons sur une manette de Xbox. Ouais, en masse. Tu peux faire... il y a déjà du monde qui joue à Warcraft avec la manette. Il y a du monde qui le font avec Final Fantasy, qui a plus de spells que Warcraft, by the way. Ouais, si tu fais des combos. Non, c'est parce qu'il y a des gens que... Des fois, c'est juste une question aussi de disabilities. Tu sais, t'as un problème physique qui t'empêche d'utiliser un clavier et une souris. Des fois, c'est une question de vouloir jouer chill aussi. C'est correct. Ça s'apprend. C'est pas en janvier que c'était Microsoft. Non, c'est Redley. C'est fait. L'achat est complété. Mais on devrait avoir des ajouts de jeux, ça devrait se faire juste en 2024. C'est assez fort, chat? Je viens de le monter. Delves!
So, to begin, let's talk delves. So, what is a delve? As you heard yesterday, delves are these quick, bite-sized, epic adventures for flexible-sized groups. Either solo or
on a parlé de ça au début des delves, mais ça fait penser beaucoup au principe de Torghast. Aventure/instance pour 1 à 5 joueurs qui s'habituent automatiquement, qui s'ajustent automatiquement au nombre de joueurs.
Delves are a new endgame pillar. This is a permanent addition to World of Warcraft going forward and represents kind of a
c'est pas Torghast, mais le principe de Torghast était bon. D'être forcé de le faire, c'était pas bon, mais le principe d'avoir une instance qui s'ajuste automatiquement dans 1 à 5 joueurs, c'était fucking cool.
But if you wanted progression, if you wanted goals, if you wanted a deeper, more structured experience, frankly, we were letting you down. We want to change that. That's what delves represent in World of Warcraft.
À la fin, t'as fait du Torghast avec tes chums. Quand tu faisais du catch-up, c'était le fun. T'embarquais 2-3 chums ensemble, puis tu démolissais les Torghast à la gang, c'était plaisant, c'était full cool. Tu peux en faire 5 d'affilée, tu sais. Au début, d'être obligé d'en faire 2 par semaine. Sinon, tu perdais tes sauts. Tu sais, c'était de la merde. Ça, c'était pas bon.
It's just about kind of spending your time doing a thing, going to a place, completing an event, but there aren't necessarily goals to work towards. There aren't necessarily reasons to be excited about getting an item upgrade because it's going to let you do something you haven't been able to do before. A difficulty progression built into delves is going to enable us to offer that.
Je trouve que ça, c'est une bonne idée. À écouter.
From building this type of content, whether it was Torghast in Shadowlands, Island Expeditions, scenarios, you can throw in horrific visions in that list.
What's up?
We've learned a lot about how to tune these sorts of experiences, how to design them for flexible scaling groups of different sizes, of different role compositions, about what's fun and what isn't. But we've also learned, based on your feedback, about what not to do in some cases, in terms of how we structure it, how we present it. I think a key aspect of saying this is an endgame pillar is that it's an offering in parallel to the others, to dungeons, to raids. If you want to do this, if this is your jam, if this is your type of gameplay, we're there for you, and we want this to be as deep as you want it to be.
Je trouve ça super cool pour les joueurs qui sont un peu plus casual, d'avoir un pillar endgame pour eux autres, avec une progression pour eux autres, puis une récompense de la vol pour eux autres. C'est cool.
That gets back to some of the philosophies that Morgan touched on yesterday and how we're approaching designing and evolving World of Warcraft. We want to meet you where you are. We want to respect your time. We want to offer you the ability to choose how you want to spend that time each day, each night in Azeroth.
Preach!
So in terms of the character of delves and what a specific one will be like, The vibe here is about unraveling mysteries, it's about exploring, it's about feeling like an extension, a seamless extension of the outdoor world experience. These are not dungeons. Every dungeon is ultimately about killing a series of bosses or boss-like encounters, and the dungeon is over when you kill the final baddest boss at the end of the dungeon. And that's kind of the structure that they all have to conform to. As much as we try to vary the formula a bit, that's pretty much what they're going to be. In the outdoor world, things are a bit different. We can, break some more of the rules. And really, at the end of the day, the one consistent thing about delves is that they're all going to end with a room full of treasure. Some of those will have a final boss guardian in front of them. Others, you may be, just exploring, traversing the delve, flipping switches, solving a puzzle, defeating lieutenants, gathering things that you need to open the vault door. We can vary the gameplay, we can vary the feel of the experience. These are going to be instant experiences, but they are seamless. When you walk up to, this, as I'll show in a second, a fog door at the entrance to a cave, at the entrance to a structure, you're just going to walk in, no loading screen, and now you're in a delve. You want to make sure this really feels like part of and an extension of the outdoor world. Now, as part of an in-game pillar, that means we're going to tie this into seasons. So, as well as a narrative progression over the course of a given season, there will be increasing rewards, increasing difficulty, and a change of pace, whether you're in Season 1 of War Within, Season 2, and so forth. Part of that is going to be the NPC companion that will be accompanying you on your adventures. The Season 1 companion, as we mentioned yesterday, is our good friend, Bran Bronzebeard. Now, what does a companion mean in practice? Well, it's a few things. One, it's definitely a narrative hook. It gives us a chance to help give context for your adventures, kind of narrate what you're going through. But also, it's a chance to kind of play with the mechanics and complement your play style. As Bran adventures with you, you might find some gear for Bran. You might be able to gear Bran up. You'll be able to spec him and customize his abilities to complement.
Je suis curieux de savoir aussi jusqu'à combien de gear qu'on peut aller pogner là-dedans. Évidemment, ce ne sera pas du mythique gear, mais quand même, tu sais. Je me demande où est-ce que ça va amener les joueurs plus casuals.
And give you another vector for your progression over the course of the journey.
Ça avec, ouais.
Now, I know this has kind of been very high level. I want to just give a couple of specific examples, just kind of a day in the life of someone jumping into delves in War Within. So let's say you are casually journeying across the Isle of Dorne and its pastoral beauty, and you come across this structure with that fog door set into it, and you decide to venture in. So as you venture in, you are, as I mentioned, seamlessly in the delve, and you will find, just huddled inside the entrance, a group of expedition scouts who have come to this place. They've heard reports of great secrets, great treasures, powerful relics stored within, but they've been unable to proceed further. Because, they tell you, and Bran is among them, mind you, they tell you, this place, there's an unnatural, there's a disturbing darkness that has settled over this entire vault, and we can't proceed. Fortunately, they have in their possession a relic that they have brought that is an enchanted candle that can light the way. It has a little light radius around it. If you think back to the Vault of the Warden's dungeon, if you remember that in Legion, what the basement was like, where it really felt like just like a dark, scary place, but you could have this beacon in the darkness to guide your way, you have one of those. But, they tell you, it has very limited fuel. They dare not proceed on their own because they worry they're just going to get trapped in the darkness and destroyed by the terrors within. But you, of course, being the champion who's come along, you're up to the task. So you take that candle with its light radius that will begin to shrink progressively as your limited fuel burns, and you take some steps into the delve. Now, who do you find in here? Well, as it happens, you run across fellows like this guy. More jacked than your average kobold, but there's a lot of kobolds in here. And as you know, as any World of Warcraft player knows, where you find kobolds, you're going to find candles. And this guy's going to put up a fight, but it being World of Warcraft and all, you're going to take
differently. Why?
And you're going to take the candles of his allies and his brethren. And, that will help fuel this magic light that you have, help keep the light burning so that you can traverse the entire delve, defeat a couple of lieutenant-type enemies, bosses, solve a puzzle or two, and at the end, You make your way into the vault room that Bran is able to open once you bring him there, and you find this mock-up, work in progress of a treasure room, heaping with riches, treasure chests of various shapes and sizes.
Ça va être pas mal le style de
Some of the
contenu qu'il y a
smaller
bien
ones,
du
you can
monde
just
qui vont
walk
aimer
up
ça,
and
je
open,
pense.
collect a range of items, currency, rewards, you name it. But you'll find a couple of extra large, resplendent chests in this room. Those may require special keys to open. Now, those keys you would obtain from doing kind of outdoor content, weekly quests. They're a bit more limited in how you can get them, but also allow us to offer and pace out the best rewards. They're on par with some other endgame content to make sure it's not, infinitely grindable or anything like that, but it's an extension of your outdoor world loop if this is your playstyle. Now, let's say you come back to the same delve on another day. You might find that there isn't a magical darkness settled over the place. Instead, there are earthen locked in battle with kobolds, and you can help turn the tide of that fight as you work your way through, dealing with some different challenges along the way. Variety, replayability, lots of layers to the experience. Now, so you venture back out into the zone, heading off to a different corner of it, and you come across this cave surrounded by mushrooms. It's known in legends as fungal folly. Now, maybe not being the wisest adventurer, that sounds like a great place to enter, so you take a few steps forward. In here, you might find an environment where, whether it's due to unusual ores or whatever in the walls, the rules of gravity are a bit topsy-turvy. And you'll find mushrooms scattered around the cave that you can use as basically jump pads to help navigate the environment, to skip over enemies you want to avoid, to reach high up ledges that you couldn't otherwise get to. You're starting to get the idea, like, this is more the world as toy vibe that we try to play with when we're creating outdoor events, outdoor spaces. These are not mechanics you'd necessarily find in a dungeon, but I think the team really is unshackled, is freed to explore a much wider array of gameplay.
Pour ceux qui viennent de revenir de la pub, disaient que dans celui-là, c'était des champignons, puis on pouvait se servir des champignons comme pour sauter à gauche puis à droite, pour éviter des ennemis ou sauter d'une plateforme à l'autre. Fait que ça devient comme un genre de donjon expérience de platforming d'une certaine façon.
Scattered throughout the 4 zones, each themed around the ecologies, each themed around the settings that you're going to find. Now, some of the attentive among you may be saying, wait a minute,
C'est vraiment des types d'instances / contenus qui sont variés beaucoup d'une place à l'autre. Ils ne sont pas illimités non plus. Puis comme il disait, le loot va être comme équivalent au World Content.
Going to the Great Vault every week and getting to share in that disappointment that your raiding and dungeon playing brethren have also had the pleasure to enjoy. We just want to make sure you don't feel left out. So you're welcome. So you'll note this isn't a Delves row, this is a world row. And really that is enshrining these 3 PvP pillars, raids, dungeons, world. You'll be able to unlock some of these slots doing select outdoor world activities, as well as, of course, delves with better rewards from higher difficulty delves. Our thinking in terms of the rewards here, this is all subject to tuning, is that this should reach to, let's say, end boss heroic raid, Mythic 10 to 15 type range,
the pleasure
accessible just via solo
of the disappointment of a bad vault. You're welcome. mais ça donne du contenu pour les joueurs plus casual qui normalement font pas de Mythic Plus ou pas de raid, tu sais.
Wait a minute, what about the PvP row? Don't worry, we got you. We are removing the PvP row from the vault. We're doing that based largely on feedback that we've heard that randomness and PvP gearing maybe are not the best combination. I know it took a few years to get that message through to us. So the way this is going to work is instead, you're going to get a whole lot more conquest. You're going to gear up at the same rate overall, but you will have complete control over your gearing path, just spending your conquest on the items that you want.
Plus de conquest en,
with easier catch-up if you come in late in the season, you don't have to worry about having missed certain vault weeks. Also, if you're someone who PvPs a lot and you raid, you don't have the awkward choice of that raid trinket versus the PvP item that's going to help your arena.
Pourquoi que ma vault, je serais obligé de choisir un item PvP ou un item de raid si je fais les deux? C'est vraiment du gear différent, c'est pas comme le Mythic Plus puis le raiding, tu sais.
Now, aside from, just power, also you get silly hats. Nothing more to say here. These just... These are just a few examples of the array of cosmetic rewards that will be exclusive to delves, reflecting the varied ecologies and environments you're going to be facing. So, silly hats.
J'ai rien à rajouter.
Less silly, just as, let's say, Mythic Plus players have a mount that they can earn over the course of a given season, this customizable flying mount will be exclusively available through thorough completion of the delve experience. You'll note the customizability of it.
Cool.
This will be customizable the same way you can customize your current dragon riding drakes at the rostrum. Just modularly.
Ça, c'est cool. God damn, customizable. En plus, chat, ça, c'est cool.
It's pretty cool. I love our artists. Okay.
OK.
Up next.
Warbands. Let's go. Ça, c'est tellement la plus belle affaire qui nous amène.
I feel like I could probably just save 10 minutes of this panel by just saying account-wide everything and just click through the next slides. But
Plus de monde pareil pour tout le monde. Non, c'est ça, personnalisable. C'est ça qui est le fun.
So, I don't know if you guys know this, but turns out y'all play a lot of alts. I'm sure that actually the number of characters per person in this room in particular is like some insane average. But the average WoW player today plays multiple characters. The two-thirds of players who have a level 70 have multiple level 70s. Half of players have 3 or more. Most people are playing multiple characters a week. And that's not something the game, it's no secret, has always done the best job of supporting. Now, part of that is because World of Warcraft 20 years ago was built with very different assumptions. And I both mean design-wise, but actually engineering-wise as well. The infrastructure and the architecture that was built. Back then, it took hundreds of hours to level a single character, of course, and playing alt seriously was far from the norm. But we've kind of inherited, we have been working with those foundations to this day. And so when we get requests for them, when we talk about alt friendliness, we try to do it, but we're often we're swimming upstream, given the underpinnings of a system that were never designed for this. And that's why you get some, frankly, pretty clunky solutions. Like, well, if you want to transfer this currency to your alt, go to a vendor and spend some to buy a different box that contains account-bound currency that you can then mail to yourself, log out, log back in, take the box out of your mailbox, and open it on your alt. Congratulations, you have moved 300 supplies.
J'aime ça parce qu'il acknowledge la problématique, tu sais. Puis il en rit lui-même, il dit « Ça n'a pas été conçu comme ça au début, mais on veut le changer parce que maintenant, vous jouez de manière différente, tu sais. » C'est cool.
And created a new future, both for the things we want to offer today and the things we'll be able to in the future, so we're not fighting against the nature of the system, but instead, it complements what we want to do. Now, the focus here is really making it convenient, removing barriers, removing awkwardness in playing alts. We don't want to actively necessarily encourage it. People already want to do it if they do it. One thing the system is not going to be is something that awards you power or makes your main more effective because you have done things on other characters or anything along those lines. If you want to play alts, do so. If you just love focusing on a single character, that shouldn't feel wrong either. Now let's talk about some examples.
Je le prends. Je trouve que c'est une bonne approche.
I'm going to run through these pretty quickly. They're mostly fairly straightforward. It's a bank. It's an account-wide bank. Thankfully,
une banque
hopefully
partagée.
You should never again have to mail something to yourself. You also might notice, and so this is giant, lots of storage, extra tabs that can be purchased on the right-hand side, so multiple tabs of these. You can organize them as you want. The very observant, the eagle-eyed, will notice a little checkbox mentioning reagents. If you deposit reagents here, you can craft from the account-wide storage on any of your characters.
Dude!
Next up, maybe a little new thing. Something that you might put in this account-wide storage.
Tu peux crafter ton stock direct à partir de la banque. Tu n'es plus obligé d'avoir les regions dans tes poches. Ils peuvent être juste dans ta banque.
You might get an item that you can't sell in the auction house or trade, but that you can give to any of your other characters for their use.
Tu pouvais déjà avec le Region Bank. Là, c'est un Region Bank partagé avec tous tes persos.
These items would drop as bonus personal loot from doing a variety of content. They would drop at a slightly lower item level than what that content would normally give you. Again, we want to make sure the right way to play is not you know, playing on multiple characters to funnel loot to your main to gear up your main faster, but just easy potential hand-me-downs, ways of getting an alt caught up, maybe even an excuse to level an alt if you get a really cool item for a class that you haven't had a chance to get up yet. So just an extra layer here, hopefully, you know, making it easier than ever to progress, to accomplish your goals on multiple characters.
Ok, c'est pour ça qu'il y a du gear warband.
Right, now, quick rundown of some of the other integrations
C'est pas,
we have planned.
c'est du gear que tu peux transférer à tes
has
alts.
always been, you know, it's been for a long time an account-wide collection. Key thing here now that really is being
Tu veux pas te les envoyer par le mail.
That means that now if you were running, let's say, Ulduar on your mage and a pair of plate shoulders drop, you can still add those plate shoulders to your warband collection.
Ça aussi, c'est cool, les transmogs et tout. C'est pas l'Uxtos, ça?
Yeah.
Avec la casquette?
And then, you know, if you log on your warrior later, your warrior can equip them. You're good to go. Hopefully you don't need to feel like you need to refarm the same stuff on as many different armor types anymore.
Ouais, tant qu'il n'est pas équipé.
Again,
ce qui fait du sens aussi.
In War Within, reputations and renowns will work account-wide. We want to make this as retroactive as possible. That will take some work over time. We're probably going to start with Dragonflight renowns as a focus and a priority and work our way backwards. But going forward, we want progress earned on reputations to not really matter which character you're doing it on. At the end of the day, it's the same content, it's the same experience. If you've gained access to some perk or some recipe, having to re-earn it, not terribly compelling.
C'est important ce qu'il vient de dire. Si vous l'avez déjà fait, de la refaire une deuxième fois, c'est pas super intéressant. C'est vrai.
As you explore the world, you learn flight paths, you discover flight paths. Is it terribly compelling to have to go back to a spot that you've already been to in multiple characters just to learn a flight path for the fourth time? No.
Je pense que oui.
If you have a flight path network unlocked, you have that unlocked across your warband going forward.
Pas sûr? OK. Pendant de partager dans la compte? En théorie, oui.
An example of how having this as a foundation means that we can build new systems to inherently work at an account-wide level, just kind of as part of their DNA. As you are advancing Bran as a companion, as you are empowering him, as you're customizing him, again, logging on to a different character and going back to having a weaker Bran that doesn't offer the tools that you've grown accustomed to, that's more frustrating than fun to re-earn those things. Let's make that progression inherently warband level, inherently account-wide.
Okay.
And achievements. We've had account-wide achievements for a long time. You know, no secret, they have the little blue bar over them, indicating that they function at an account-wide level. What Warbands allows us to do is kind of invert that paradigm and change the vast majority of our achievements to be account-wide, to have that actually be the new default. So if you do part of this PvP or crafting or other achievement on one character, part of it on another, your warband can earn the achievement. Once your warband earns it, you've earned it. Again, you, the player, are doing the thing.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and then this.
Le nouveau menu de sélection de votre personnage. Là, il y a une distinction des personnages qui sont dans le Warband et ceux qui ne le sont pas.
What you'll see when you log into World of Warcraft with multiple characters is a selection of your favorite characters huddled around a campfire or another setting. You'll still have your full list accessible, but we want to make it clear that, like, you, the player, have this cast of characters. That if you want to dress them all up in consistent transmogs, go wild. One thing you might note here, if you're very eagle-eyed, also, by the way, if you're very eagle-eyed, don't read too much into things like the evoker wearing leather. That's just, it's internal mock-ups. We're not changing anything.
J'ai vu aussi un évoqueur à level 13. Moi, c'est ça que j'ai remarqué.
Sorry. But you will note that the evoker is level 13. That's going to be a thing that's possible because they'll start at level 10. But because Dragonflight's going to be the new leveling expansion, by the way, going forward. One thing you might notice is there isn't really much here about realm selection.
Whoa.
Warbands are a realm-agnostic, faction-agnostic
Ça sera plus BFA.
We'll just see all your characters here. If they're on different servers, we'll make it clear that they're on different servers. But you shouldn't have to, like, go to the change realm screen and swap around. They're just all here. Okay. Hero talents.
Le leveling de Dragonflight est fait pour toi. La plupart des gens s'entendent pour dire que le leveling de Dragonflight est une bonne expérience comparativement aux expansions précédentes. Aussi, j'ai changer de serveur. Dans un monde idéal, il faudrait que le concept même d'un choix de serveur disparaisse progressivement, puis que ce soit transparent pour le joueur. Il n'y a pas d'avantage à jouer avec des serveurs. À part l'avantage technique d'avoir un meilleur ping possible.
Nothing like covenants or anything like that. Anytime you could change your talents today, you can change your hero spec.
Non, c'est ça, exact. C'est une raison technique qui a créé ça dès le départ.
Now, some of our goals here, of course, we want to offer progression, but we want to do so, frankly, while managing complexity to a certain extent. When we started planning for War Within, we knew, all right, we're going to raise the level cap by 10. 10 new levels means 10 new talent points. The kind of default option for us would have been to take the existing class and spec trees and just add a couple more rows to each of them, add new points to spend. But we've been down that path before. We know exactly where that leads 15 years ago. There's a tremendous amount, there's an insane amount of like multiplicative combinatoric complexity from adding those additional options. And it also destroys some carefully constructed choices that are really successful that we've just built up in Dragonflight today, where you can't quite have all of these things and need to pick one or the other. Suddenly, when you can get all of them, it can lead towards homogeneity as well. So this approach allows us to both explore deeper class fantasy while focusing the decision space in a way that offers power without that excessive complexity. So the way it's generally going to look is a third talent tree. Again, as mentioned yesterday, at the center of your screen, you have class, you have talent, and in the middle, you have hero talents. You'll note, so there are 10 nodes. There's an initial node that you get as a starter node at the top that you'll get initially when you unlock the system at 71, and then 10 more nodes to unlock. You will get all of them on the way to 80. At level 80, you will have this fully unlocked, similar to Legion artifacts, let's say. So you don't have to agonize over, where you're placing any choice along the way. Now,
comme le Dragon Riding System aussi,
which
by the way.
hero spec do you want active? And also, there will be choice nodes within the trees, just as the class trees and the spec trees currently have, which you can toggle, adding quite a few permutations to the system as a whole. If you want, as a kind of simpler collapsed view, once you've hit max level, you can just condense it down to only show the choice nodes for easy swapping back and forth to customize your spec for whatever activity you're setting out to do. Now, I want to take a little bit of time to quickly walk through a couple of trees to give a sense of the sorts of things you might find in here. Again, all of this is subject to change, all subject to iteration and the extensive feedback we know we're going to get. I'm going to use druids a lot as an example here. I'm going to focus on the case of a balanced druid. Part of why the team starts with druids is because y'all are complicated. We figure there's 4 specs, 3 roles. We figure let's try some of the hardest cases first when proving out a design. It's nothing against the mages, warlocks, paladins, etc. But there's a reason why you probably tend to see more druid examples than other classes, because we figure if we can make it work for druids, the rest will be okay. The 2 options available to a balanced druid are this Keeper of the Grove tree and Elun's Chosen. Keeper of the Grove is available to balance and restoration. Elun's Chosen is available to balance and guardian. The former focuses on calling the forest to your aid, on summon treants, and augmenting their abilities and what using that cooldown means for your gameplay. Elun's Chosen focuses on augmenting your lunar abilities, many of the arcane damage, moon-themed abilities for both specs. So let's look at the Keeper of the Grove tree first. The first node that you're going to get as you just opt in is just kind of a baseline improvement to your throughput while treants are out across the board. This just kind of emphasizes thematically what this tree is about and makes pushing that button, having the treants out, more important to you in every regard. Some of the nodes in these trees are just going to be simple, straightforward passives. Not everything is going to double and triple down on the same treant ability. Some will, like this, regardless of what spec you are, make your treants add additional damage. Oh, by the way, if anyone's worried, wait a minute, but what about the auto taunt? That's a mess in dungeons. We'll let you opt out of that. Don't worry. Or passives could just augment your abilities, your resource pool, and make you a better druid. An example of choice node, again,
on les a encore, mais on les joue pas présentement à cause de la façon qu'ils sont placés dans le talent tree.
Or maybe you really don't want all of your eggs in that basket. Even though you are going into this tree, you want the treants to be important to you. You don't want 100% of your throughput to be focused in that window. You'd rather just have some baseline improvements to all of your abilities, or to some of your core abilities. This is one of the simpler choices available, but the idea is 4 different opportunities to nudge your gameplay in one direction or another within this tree. A capstone talent, again, is often likely to double down on and amplify what the initial point was.
Just
reinforcing that having the treants out
is going to be a spike
in your potential, something that you're going to
Il y a
plan
beaucoup
around, and just amplify the
de
overall
classes de
benefits
spec
that you're
power
achieving.
là-dedans. Il y a beaucoup de spells de damage.
Again, this is lunar themed.
Je sais pas comment si les deux specs vont être balancés.
The first point here is going to call out 3 specific signature abilities to balance 1 guardian and make them meaningfully more impactful to your gameplay. For your guardian druid, for example, you might read this and realize that like Lunar Beam is going to become a pretty powerful defensive cooldown, especially in dungeons. You have a big pull going on. You're leeching a lot of damage back from what you're doing. This is now something that you can really count on and plan around as you approach your gameplay. On the Moonkid side, this of course adds an extra layer to planning and throughput in your rotation. Noting a couple of these things that we're modifying may be deeper optional talents in your existing spec trees. We also, where we can, want to offer ways to make sure that you can trigger those effects even if you don't have the baseline talent, though you'll probably want to as well. So this talent just has Fury of Elune triggered as you're doing your regular rotation when you Moonfire, both just naturally. It's a powerful effect that's going to fire more frequently, but also to the extent that the rest of the Elune's chosen tree is tying into it, you'll get those benefits as well. A couple of more passive examples here. Again, just doubling down on magnifying your arcane lunar throughput, and a final capstone ability for this tree that is further reinforcing these core that have already been augmented. Leave this slide up for a while. These are our current plans for all 39 of the hero specs, so 1 per current specialization. Some cool fantasies here to explore.
Je pense que c'est un nice way to use des talents de points de 71 à 90, mais rendu là, on va voir ce que ça donne. Ouais, j'ai hâte de voir. C'est comme une spécialisation de ta spécialisation. Parce que Crossfire.
We are, well underway building these out.
Sun Fury, Crossfire, Spellslinger.
If there's something the community is really excited about. I want to
J'ai hâte de voir.
super underscore. The example talents I just gave are work in progress, very subject to change. Probably no part of the game is more prone to iteration, and for no part of the game is the community input more essential than class design, spec design. To that end, when we move into our alpha, probably in the spring, we want to have as many, if not all, of these hero specs playable from the start. So that we have the entire alpha and beta window to iterate on them, to replace the things that aren't working, to dial them all in to where everyone's going to be excited about what they're getting in War Within. It's a long road ahead. We can't wait to share that journey with you and really
ça veut dire que la sortie d'Expac serait 6 mois après.
Every step of the way.
Tu sais, il y a 6 mois entre la sortie d'une alpha puis la sortie finale.
Right. Now some other stuff. Some you've heard about, some you haven't. First off, Aladris, you get to be an Earthen.
Tu sais, pour les, juste vite là, pour les heroes spec là, tu sais ce que je trouve cool qu'ils arrêtent pas de dire c'est pour la classe fantasy puis tout ça, mais ultimement si c'est lié avec des powers comme ça, c'est ma crainte, c'est qu'on va avoir comme les meilleurs builds Boomy, on va dire ça va être ça. Fait que les meilleurs Boomy, ils sont chosen of Elune avec tel talent puis that's it. C'est pas la fin du monde, mais j'aurais aimé vraiment un vrai choix, avoir un vrai choix de fantasy pour une fois, tu sais, quelque chose que je peux choisir vraiment, juste parce que j'aime ça, tu sais. J'ai hâte de voir. Mais ça va être comme d'habitude. On va min-max, puis... C'est cool pareil, mais on va min-max, tu sais. Ben, il va toujours avoir une méta. La façon de ne pas avoir de méta, c'est de ne pas mettre de power à l'intérieur des choix que tu fais. Il faut que ça se fasse vraiment quelque chose de fantasy, tu sais. Mais c'est dur d'avoir des points de talent, quelque chose qui n'a pas rapport à ton power.
your Earthen to max level.
On va toujours faire là des talents meilleurs que les autres. Ouais, je sais.
Right. Dynamic flight.
What the fuck, je peux pas log sur mon account? Bizarre. Dynamic flight, dragon flight is here to stay.
So
OK. Dragon riding reste là, c'est cool.
Very early on in Dragonflight, probably
Je vois
before
plus mon account
Dragonflight even
principal,
released
c'est peut-être
in
un
beta,
bug de
we could
Battle.net, genre
never
fermé
go
puis
back
rouvler, ça doit
to how it
arriver.
used to be. Honestly, we hope that would be the outcome. We hope the feedback would be, this is so awesome, we just want this to be how flying works forever. But we immediately began,
Ouais, le flight, c'était littéralement un système en soi, mais ça fait partie de quelque chose que tout le monde voulait que ça reste. C'est juste vraiment le fun.
So, yeah, dragon riding is going to become the default, no longer just dragons, but dynamic flight now in War Within and beyond. We want to make sure. Oh, weird. I meant to have two mounts here, but I only see ashes on the right. But anyway.
And not just the dragons.
The key
C'est
point
cool.
being, we want to expand this to the broader array of mounts that you have available. I think the only downside of dragon riding as it exists today is that you don't have much reason to use so many of the mounts that are your favorites visually, aesthetically, that you've earned and done so much to collect. You want to make sure that as much of your collection is viable as possible. So not every single flying mount is going to be able to support dynamic flight. There's some animation logistics to work with there, but as many as we can. It's a 3-digit number. We want a very wide array of mounts being able to just fly the way you've always, enjoyed with your dragons.
C'est un 3-digit number, fait que c'est dans les centaines de mounts qui vont être compatibles avec le dynamic flight, qui est le dragon riding actuel. C'est bien
Just to
ça.
clarify, like this is the future of flying. So everywhere that you can fly today,
C'est beau, ça a marché,
you'll be
tant
able
mieux.
to dynamically fly or dragon ride. In
Dynamic
fact,
flight.
not just in
Dans
the War
toutes
Within,
les flyable
little sneak
areas.
peek, I think
Okay,
in our
cool.
upcoming 10.2.5 update, you'll be able to dragon ride in Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor, Northrend, Outland, you name it.
Oh, let's go! C'est ça qu'on voulait comme confirmation. On savait que ça pouvait arriver, mais c'était pas confirmé, là. On le sait maintenant. Ça, c'est cool.
We also understand there are some folks, for accessibility reasons, personal preference reasons, maybe you just like being able to AFK in midair, that dragon riding isn't your favorite. We don't want to take anything away. We want to let all these mounts that can currently do the old school flying mode toggle between dragon riding or let's call it TBC flying. Up to you, whatever you prefer.
Comment est-ce qu'on fait pour changer entre les deux? Faut pas que ça soit une option dans le creux des options. C'est quelque chose qu'il faudrait que tu puisses toggle rapidement. Tu sais. Dynamic Flight available dès le départ de Casalgar. OK. Ça, c'est la première zone de War Within. Sûrement au Flight Master. Faudrait que ça soit dans... Ça pourrait être dans notre slash P. Flight Form Dynamic, let's go, yes! Ça serait tellement le best.
The existing dragon riding glyph system in the Dragon Isles, we want to pivot that to a bit more of something that's
Dragon
evergreen.
glyph shifting to evergreen system.
May change to only work within the Dragon Isles. Others that are more essential to just the experience feeling good, like vigor increases, regenerates, the active abilities, are just going to be things that you will inherently get as you earn dynamic flight and level up naturally. We don't want down the line players to feel like they have to go back to an old expansion and fly around and collect a bunch of glyphs just to be able to explore the new expansion.
Fait qu'on n'aura plus besoin de les collectionner, c'est bien.
This is going to be the new default for leveling players. I mentioned earlier, when War Within comes out,
Fantastic move, ouais. Ça devient le flight par défaut aussi. Ça aussi, c'est bien.
And so you're going to get dragon riding very early in that experience. As you just level up, gain player levels, you will improve your flight ability and get all the vigor perks and everything else that everyone has come to expect. And that's just going to be how the game works.
Juste des bonnes nouvelles à date. J'ai rien de négatif à dire. Rien pantoute. Il y a juste du bon. Juste du bon. Absolument rien de négatif. Avez-vous quelque chose de négatif, vous autres?
This is long overdue. We should have been doing this earlier.
Parce que t'es un chien!
In War Within, it is a 10v10 map set in the Ringing
Ah, un nouveau Battleground. OK, c'est cool. Ça fait longtemps que j'ai pas fait de Battleground.
By Silver Shard Mines with a few twists. The Ringing Deeps are a place that's full
Oui, je me remette là-dedans
of
éventuellement.
natural resources.
Je veux savoir what the fuck is going to be happening pour la saison 4. Ouais, moi aussi.
I'm going to show you a very
Je veux savoir qu'est-ce qui arrive après 10.2.
top-down mock-up of the layout here. The idea is, unlike Silver Shard Mines, which is radial symmetry, This is more, mirrored and reflects the two sides trying to both
Je me torche un
push
peu du
their own
Hérospec.
minecarts
Ouais,
to
c'est juste
collect
un,
resources,
c'est un nom
while
qui ont
also
donné un
fighting
bon
over
set
a
de
pivotal
nouveaux
central
talents.
control point that's going to change the outcome and the momentum
Ultimement,
of the
c'est juste
match.
des points de talent
This is
supplémentaires.
something that the
Je
team
le
has
vois
actually
comme
been
ça.
playtesting internally a bunch over the last couple of weeks.
Mais
having
ils
a
l'ont tourné en
blast with.
spécialisation.
When we make battleground maps, we don't really artify them. We keep them really rough, which is why I don't have any good images to show just yet, because it really is all about the layout. There's no point making it look pretty if the spacing isn't correct, if the exact paths aren't correct. That's going to be the next step. Can't wait to get this in front of everybody to start testing in alpha and beyond.
J'aime
And
bien le
this
layout.
isn't just a one-off. We want to keep adding
Un
new
layout
battleground
miroir
maps
aussi, c'est
going
cool pour un
forward. This is an
battleground.
essential part of the game.
Genre les affaires de The War Within, c'est
I
vraiment
mentioned
nice, puis c'est le fun,
10v10,
mais ça fait
but
un an, je suis
we
pas
are just
pressé
about to
d'apprendre ça, c'est
undertake a little
fine. Qui en parle,
8v8
puis je suis
solo
content.
queue RPG
J'aime pas faire des
experiment
BG, je trouve ça le fun, mais
in
ça fait
N2
longtemps que je l'ai
in a
pas
week
fait.
or two. So depending on how that goes, you may be experiencing this one 8v8 as well. So stay tuned.
Interface update.
Otherwise, we have a few ongoing interface updates that we're continuing to work on. In Dragonflight, we overhauled the HUD, the action bars, the unit frames, the baseline UI
Pensez-vous qu'il
experience.
présente une
We made
nouvelle,
it clear at the
un nouveau
time
UI
that
complet
that was
encore?
just the beginning. This is something we want to continue chipping away at, updating different pieces of the
Je penserais pas
UI
que ça
to be
change
more
du tout au tout.
streamlined, better reflective of the modern gameplay experience.
Qu'est-ce qu'il reste à
So just
faire
a
dans
couple of
l'UI à
examples
changer?
here. So the spellbook, we are looking to modernize, update, actually make use of
J'ai rien dit.
more than like a 1024 by 768 monitor resolution. Ideally, you're not going to have to flip through multiple pages.
En plus, il y a un search bar en haut.
Also, we're combining this with our talent screen. If you look at the tabs at the bottom, you have spec.
Ah, le spellbook est à la même place que les talents. Ça, c'est bien, par
all
exemple.
in one place, so it's kind of a one-stop shop for all the things that your character has available, rather than having
c'est
two
bien.
separate windows that you need to move between.
Parce que rien n'a changé. Boom in your face, Max. Je le mérite. C'est correct.
Some light updates here. I think improving the overall aesthetic of the quest log, the quest window.
Tu as mis des petits
I
crochets
think
pour
this is
afficher
harder
les
to show
quests
off just in a
follow.
single screenshot, but
C'est
we
cool.
are adding a bunch of filters to allow you to hide and show different objectives, to see more quests available at once, to filter your log for the things you care about most. We also have a full pass in progress on our quest iconography to make it easier to differentiate between daily and weekly quests and remove our reliance on just
Une des
shades
affaires
of
qu'il faudrait
color
qu'ils changent,
as much as we
c'est
do, which really it is a color blindness issue
les
for,
bindings par défaut.
the range of quest bangs.
Les
where the
bindings
only
par défaut
difference
pour les
is
nouveaux
what
joueurs
color it is.
aujourd'hui, ça fait aucun
And
sens.
again, this is just a
Il
couple of
faudrait
examples
vraiment
of
qu'ils pognent les
ongoing
joueurs
efforts.
à lui donner
This is a
un set de
project that will
binding
never be done.
complètement
We're just gonna
différent par
continue
défaut.
improving and updating different aspects of the UI
Tu sais,
as we go.
tourner sur place là, avec UpID, là, c'est donc.
Yes. So this one basically speaks for itself. I've mentioned earlier, your warband is a cross-realm construct. Increasingly, so many of the activities that players engage in socially.
Personne ne va peser sur
span multiple
78901.
realms.
Non,
You
je
have a
sais,
raid group,
exact.
a Mythic Plus group that you run with, group that you PvP with, but you can't be in the same guild together. Not any longer. That's a thing that will change when War Within comes out.
Je veux dire, tu peux les binder, c'est correct. Je me rends jusqu'à
When it
6.
comes to joining a guild, when it comes to being in a guild, when it comes to accessing the perks of being in a guild.
Mais après ça, je suis pas capable. Tu sais, c'est juste bien trop loin.
People may be wondering, wait a minute, what does that mean if now guilds are cross-realm?
Avec mon
What
maître,
about
j'ai rien
mythic
sur
raiding?
6, mais avec mon Boomy, oui. C'est mon
Well,
star
if your
fort.
guild is cross-realm and your guild wants to raid
Ça,
Mythic,
c'est
you should be able
cool.
to do that day one.
Recruit
So,
freely,
no
regardless of the
more
realm.
realm
Day
restrictions
1
there.
cross-realm. Ça, c'est tout du bon stock.
The Hall of Fame will still exist, just kind of as a memorial of accomplishment, but it's not going to be tied to unlocking anything anymore. That's just there day one. And really, just philosophically, this is another step towards one of our goals of just tearing down barriers, making the game as social as possible, making it as easy as possible to play with who you want to play with, regardless of your server, regardless of your faction. As much as possible, if you want to play WoW with somebody, let's make that happen.
5, c'est mon kick sur tous les persos. 6, c'est mon third. Mouse button que j'utilise, c'est les oui placés,
That brings us
configuration
to
sur
the end
vallée.
of this
OK.
whirlwind tour / deep dive of War Within features. I know there's still a bunch of questions, a bunch more information to share. Can't wait to do that in the coming days and weeks. But to begin, I'd like to invite everybody, if you have questions, if you're here at Blizzcon, go to the Darkmoon Fair in Hall D. You can drop off questions there. If you're going online, you can go to the WoW or WoW Classic subreddits or our official forums.
J'aimerais savoir un roadmap pour Dragonflight, savoir qu'est-ce qui reste.
This coming week, when we get back to the office, we're going to huddle, review the top questions, and record streams for both Classic and for War Within,
FPS, mouse
addressing
gamer,
the
ouais,
top
moi aussi.
questions to try to get as much
C'est ici.
information out there as possible. So.
G502.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to begin this journey together with you. Can't wait for the War Within.
T'as plus que deux boutons? J'ai plus que deux boutons. J'ai deux boutons de pouce. J'ai un troisième bouton de pouce sur ce modèle-là, puis deux boutons ici. Puis évidemment le mouse middle click. Je suis vraiment content de la présentation pour War Within. Je trouve qu'il y a un paquet d'informations super intéressantes, mais il manque une partie cruciale. Puis Ray est d'accord avec moi là-dessus. Ça nous prend un roadmap pour ce qui reste pour Dragonflight. Parce que tout ça, ça s'en vient dans un an, tu sais. C'est cool de savoir que ça s'en vient. C'est cool de savoir qu'on a les guilds cross-rem, qu'on a la progression account-bound, tu sais, qui appelle le Warbound, puis tout. C'est tout cool. Tout ce qu'ils présentent, c'était tout du beau stock. Mais je veux juste savoir qu'est-ce que je vais faire dans les prochaines semaines.